Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. Trudging along, because apparently this is going to be a thing now. I made a whole playlist. If you guys want to go check it out, I left the link down in the pinned comment on the Athena video, but if you want to, it's a whole playlist somewhere on my homepage. I put it in a new category. I made a new section for it. It's called the Downfall series, right? The Epic Downfall series. And now I have more of an excuse to talk about some of these sorry sons of bitches, all right? But this video is going to be a little bit different because you can argue that this is a downfall as of right now, but something tells me this video isn't going to age very well. Or maybe it will age very well. Maybe it won't age very well in the sense that it's pretty clear the destination of Ricky Starks. But maybe it will age well in about 2 or 3 more years, am I right? But let's take it from the beginning of Ricky Starks, because his whole little adventure is way shorter than the other people's adventures because he's more of a newer superstar compared to the other people we talked about. But it's still a story nonetheless, full of triumphs and tribulations, and at least as of right now, tragedy, right? So he did have a bit of an extensive, record in regards of working the indies. I think he worked the indies, from what I read, about 5 or 6 years. I know he was enhancement talent when he was working with WWE. I know he was a jobber to people like Enzo and Cass, and I think he was a jobber for the Revival also on some of the NXT shows and whatnot. But I know he was also one of the people who were, because I remember people pointing that out back in like 2019 or 2019, some shit like that, when they were running that Roman Reigns angle when he was getting arrested by some of the Grand Marshal people. I think that was the feud with what was it? No, you know what? Actually, before I even talk about that, the first time I seen Ricky Starks, it's so fucking hilarious. And someone pointed this out, and I was like, oh shit, that is Ricky Starks. I remember when Ryback was going on his whole little bully arc back in like 2013 or some shit, or 2012. No, 2013. He was a face in 2012. When he was going around, he was like, I'm Ryback. I'm a bully. Ryback rules. I am a Neanderthal-shaped head. Nosferatu. Eat steroids with my brain. Fucking retard. Yeah, I remember Ryback. Ricky Starks was one of his victims. And it's crazy too, because if you see Ricky Starks in 2013 and you see him now, Ricky Starks is still very young now, but he was also very young then. He was probably like in his early 20s at the time, and now he's like in his mid 30s. He doesn't really look all too different. Good on him, keeping himself in shape. That's good. That's what's up. But nevertheless, so that's the first time I remember Ricky Starks. And then he did some stuff like with Roman Reigns and arresting him on one of the episodes building up into WrestleMania. I think, was that when he was building up going towards Drew McIntyre? No. Drew was 2019, right? What would have been would that have been Brock Lesnar? I think that was the Brock Lesnar angle. Whatever though. But that's what he was doing at the time, right? And, he came through NWA, obviously. I don't remember much from his NWA stuff because I tried to get in the NWA, but it was just a little bit too campy for me, so I gave up on it after the first 2 weeks. But I do remember seeing him, at some points doing some stuff with and I only remember this because, he came in my comment section and he corrected me on my Millennial Smart channel because I buried his ass. Ziggy Dice, you guys remember him? I remember I made some video with him and I think Nick Aldis, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Nick Aldis? You guys can tell me. I made this video a long time ago, like back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. It was some video I made on Zicky Dice with somebody else. I think it was Nick Aldis, and I think he was burying him or something like that, and I took up for Nick Aldis. This is way before he came to WWE, and I think he came in my comment section. He corrected me on something regarding Ricky Starks when I talked about him, or I can't remember. It was a long time ago, though. But he was like, oh, you can come on my stream and we can talk about it, buddy. He's like, fuck you. No, you're Zicky Dice. I'm not going to fucking talk to you. Fuck you. But eventually he did come to All Elite Wrestling. There was a bunch of buzz surrounding his name. Ricky Starks is going to be that guy. He's so good on the microphone. Charisma up the wazoo. If charisma was a human embodiment, this guy would be God himself. He's so awesome. Oh, I want to suck his dick to his asshole. Well, he did come to Team Taz because that was his first thing, right? I think his first thing, I think he answered That's when Cody Rhodes is doing this whole little rip-off John Cena. I'm here to give out an open challenge for the TNT Championship. And he accepted it. That was his actual debut, right? And, you know, he had a good showing. I mean, Cody Rhodes and this whole TNT Open Challenge shit, I got so bored of after a while. I got bored with John Cena's also, to be perfectly honest with you. That was my first instances, not Cody, but Cena, of like falling out of favor of like actual in-ring work, because it's like, if this is all you're gonna do is just go out there and fucking wrestle with legitimately no story as an excuse to say, hey, star power here, I'm just gonna give it to the show itself, and I really don't give a shit. But he had a good showing, right? He eventually established himself as a pretty decent heel afterwards, and he was going on, like I said, to eventually team up with Team Taz, you know, and believe it or not, you know, he did have some work between then too, right? Like, I remember seeing a match with him, was it with Brian Cage? Because I think he beat Will Hobbs. It's him beating Will Hobbs in the future. This was early incarnation AEW small man beat big man for no reason. When I think he beat Will Hobbs on one of these episodes of like Dark Elevation or some shit. I remember, you know, watching the show at the time. I think I even talked about it on the channel as an example as to what the fuck is AEW doing at the moment. Again, this was like a long time ago, like back in not even 2021. This was like right after I did the first, I think I actually made that an example in the 9 Months of Lies AEW video I did around that time when I said, oh, you got this twink, what I say? I think I said something like, yo, you have this twink fucking Ricky Starks beating this big ass gorilla man named fucking Will Hobbs. I didn't even know who Will Hobbs is at the moment, because I was shitting on him and Brian Cage for losing to a woman. That's when he lost to Tessa Blanchard. But, you know, as time starts to go on, like I said, he sides with Taz, he sides with Will Hobbs, right? He starts to do his thing with Brian Cage, and it pretty much led to nothing. I mean, these guys legitimately did nothing the entire time. As a matter of fact, the only thing I remember from them, as far as like Ricky Starks hitting his peak, was that cinematic match he had at Revolution. Probably one of the most, how do I put this into kinder words? The angriest video I've ever made. Was it the Revolution 2021 video? I said, so, I mean, you think I say shit that's out of pocket nowadays. Oh my God, if you fucking listen to that Revolution 2021 video, that is by far the most edgiest edge I was ever edging in my edgy life. I was saying some of the most craziest shit that there is. Even with the shit I say nowadays, I look back at that and I say, God damn, Devontae, holy shit. I still remember the Hangman reference I made with the N-word. That was lit. That was a beast! But eventually he didn't really do much afterwards, you know. Again, after the Revolution stuff with Sting, that was probably his high mark, helping Sting transition into full-time wrestling, or I guess part-time wrestling, but full-time for Sting, right? Because he was on the roster more often than not. But like I said, nothing happened throughout the past couple of years. He was here and there on Rampage, you know, doing this thing with Brian Cage. I think that's when he turned face for the first time, if I'm not mistaken. Or did he turn face when he went up against Brian Cage? No, he was still a heel, right? Brian Cage was a face, if I'm not mistaken. That was actually a pretty decent match from what I remember also, that little street fight they had on Rampage. But he kept continuing on, right? And, you know, he was issuing open challenges here and there himself. He was still doing his thing with Team Taz and all this other shit. But eventually, we thought to ourselves, okay, well, this is a switch in direction for Ricky Starks, because this dude is floundering like a motherfucker right now. I mean, he is stuck in mid-card purgatory hell. And it's one thing to be stuck in mid-card purgatory hell in WWE. It's another thing to be stuck in mid-card hell, purgatory hell, purgatory hell, and AEW. It's like twice as fuckery, okay? It's the twice of fuckery. But he eventually did turn face, and he started to feud with Team Taz, and all of them started to dissolve, and he went up against Will Hobbs, and this whole thing blew up, and that didn't go anywhere. Yep, you're starting to see a pattern here with Ricky Starks. You're starting to see a pattern here. You know, he sinks his teeth into something and goes nowhere. He sinks his teeth into something again and it goes nowhere. Mind you, albeit, dude has a bunch of talent. Dude has all the skill sets, nothing to use in order to, you know, further his career. But like I said, he did eventually turn face, right? This is after the whole lights out match that he had with Will Hobbs, which, once again, Ricky Starks beats him because small men over little men, but I get it. It's AEW. It's the land of the giants. Psych, it's the land of the midgets. Eventually, he calls out MJF. Now, why would you not give him a legitimate, solid feud outside of Will Hobbs to build him up a little bit more? Maybe he can go after the TNT champion, something a little more towards his pay grade before he goes up against MJF. Because why the fuck not? We're AEW, and if we can do it, guess what? We're gonna do it! Essentially, is what I got out of that, right? But he eventually went mic to mic, face to face, promo to promo with MJF, and he kind of got the better of him a little bit, right? There were some occasions where MJF was slipping, and this is right after MJF won the World Championship, probably a couple of weeks after he beat John Moxley. This is actually one of MJF's first legitimate, I guess you can call it, rivalries with the World Championship, depending on how you want to, dictate a rivalry, because these guys only feuded for 2 weeks, in my opinion. They never really came back to this whole thing also, and there were so many people oh, you should run back MJF and Ricky Starks, but he had a bunch of momentum at this time, you know what I mean? Probably one of the more popular superstars in that time frame for that time being in professional wrestling. People were blowing this motherfucker to smithereens. I'm telling you, man, they were blowing his dick through his back. I'm telling you, I'm not even joking. But he eventually did lose to MJF, and they never revisited anything in regards to the feud. One can argue, like most people were saying, this could have been a match that you could have built up all the way to Revolution. Could have gave some needed boost to the name of Ricky Starks, but AEW does AEW things, and AEW things require having to kill a guy's momentum for no fucking reason. So, speaking of killing guys' momentum for no fucking reason, they eventually take Ricky Starks, and how do you upgrade Ricky Starks? How do you make Ricky Starks a bigger name after going into a World Championship loss against MJF? You put him against Chris Jericho. If Rey Mysterio is the giant killer, Jericho is the momentum killer. And it's not just the Chris Jericho that you're putting up against. No. You can't just put him up against the Chris Jericho, right? The legacy of Jericho. Drink it in, man. And die from poison. No, you have to put him up against the JAS, the Jericho Appreciation Society, a group of fucking mongrels who actually think they're a threat, who actually think that they're popular, that probably gave Jericho a boost in his stupid ass ego, thinking that he's running another stable again, when in reality it's just another stable underneath his armpit called his leadership that's gonna stink to high hell, which some of that stink rubbed off on Ricky Starks. Because what did Ricky Starks do with the Jericho Appreciation Society? He went up against Chris Jericho. And did that elevate him in any meaningful way? Fuck no! Don't you understand? It's the vortex of Jericho. Once you get sucked in, there ain't no coming back. It's the black hole of Jericho. Get sucked, man. Pause. But after all the Jericho Appreciation Society stuff, Starks, he eventually started doing shit with the Bullet Club. Yes, I mean, this dude's going down the ladder quicker than Jeff Hardy when it comes to sobriety. And what did he do when he went up against the Bullet Club Gold? Sorry, at that time, the Bullet Club? Absolutely nothing. I might as well just, mock The Rock while I'm mocking Ricky Starks, because he himself likes to mock The Rock with the way he dresses. And you can clearly see Ricky Starks' momentum is dropping and dropping and dropping and going lower and lower and lower and lower. That's why I say this is his downfall, because he's falling down the jabroni. Sorry, I'm getting too much Rocky in me. But nevertheless, after all this shit went down, Tony Khan had to realize to himself, fuck, I'm messing up the bag right now. Ricky Starks, I think his morale in general manager mode right now is anger. He's feeling frustrated. I think he's going to let his contract run out. I think he's going to want to drop his contract. Can I just keep him? Can I keep his popularity around 70 so I can use him to make some stars in my general manager match card going into the pay-per-view? No, because you suck at general manager mode just as much as you suck as a booker. Put down the controller and pick up the pen, dumb boy. And, I will say this. He tried to make Ricky Starks happy. He recognized how much he was fucking over Ricky Starks, and he eventually, gave him a win. Now, was it a credible win? It depends how you look at it. He won the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, and he won it by beating CM Punk. That guy right now who's going up against Drew McIntyre, who about a month after this whole loss to Ricky Starks, went on a tirade himself, and with tirade I mean with his fist, and with his fist I mean with no fist, and with no fist I mean he really didn't do anything but yell at people and barely grab them, and then he got fired for it. Yeah, you know the whole story. We're not gonna go over it again. But Clearly, Ricky Starks needed an opponent now that CM Punk is no longer here. He skibbited himself right off of Collision and right into the arms of WWE. But Ricky Starks has no opponent. He's looking around left and right. I keep getting fucked over. My momentum, snap my fingers. I'm being Thanos out of my career. My momentum is no longer here. And I feel bad for the guy, honestly, because again, all of these things, it's kind of a pattern, right? A pattern of behavior with this downfall series is you're going to notice that most of the people, not all, will get to some superstars eventually where they fucked up themselves, they fucked up the bag themselves. The majority of these people, it was out of their hands. Nothing that they can do about it, okay? They have to sit back, being strapped to a gurney, having to watch their career flush away down the toilet like an aborted baby, right? And Ricky Starks, no different with this entire scenario and with this entire situation. Having to watch Tony Khan with an eraser, scrub his name out, rubbing another person's name, scrub his name out again, rubbing a person's name, scrub his name out, rubbing another person's name, and eventually his name does stay. And across from him, some of the biggest names of professional wrestling. Scrub his name out, rubbing a different name, scrub his name out, rubbing it. Now it's happening to Ricky Starks in regards to his momentum as far as the bigger opponents he could be facing at the moment. And not a knock on Bryan Danielson. Love Bryan Danielson. He's not a bigger star than CM Punk. Let's just, be real about that. And I like Bryan more than I like Punk. Being real, I know Punk did a main event WrestleMania. Bryan Danielson did. Doesn't matter. On the grand scheme of things, name value-wise, love Bryan Danielson. Make an argument out of it if you want to. Probably going to tip the scale over to CM Punk when it comes to the star power side, right? Call me crazy. And that's who, he eventually replaced in regards to CM Punk is Bryan Danielson. One may say that's a downgrade. One may say, okay, it's a downgrade, but it's a downgrade to someone who's just as appropriate, who can help you get over. Psych! Because he didn't go over. He lost. Because it's one thing to lose to CM Punk in order to, boost up your momentum. It's another thing to get replaced with the guy who's, eventually not going to be CM Punk, and you lose to the guy of lesser star power value because your momentum sinking more and more and more and more. So what was the point of the Owen Hart tournament, you say? I don't think you understand this, okay? Tony Khan and Vince McMahon are kind of similar in regards to how they book. One may even argue Tony Khan kind of copies Vince McMahon a little bit in regards to the booking strategy because he has no fucking mind of his own, right? And people may say to themselves, well, Devontae, you're stretching it a little tiny bit. I mean, 50-50 booking, where did that originate from? 9 times out of 10, when I look back at the territory days, I think those guys were more so used to, booking people to look strong, keeping characters looking strong, keeping the momentum up to, God tier so people can actually have a reason to want to get behind them and call them their favorite superstars. I think 50-50 booking in order to keep a guy just a little bit lesser than John Cena, for an example, not just throwing out names for the sake of throwing out names, seems like a Vince McMahon specialty. But of course we don't want to admit that, because in order to admit that, we have to say that AEW is WWE light, which in some ways is true, but I don't want to say they're light. I want to say that they're more of the retarded version of WWE. Continuing on though, he lost to Bryan Danielson, and you may say to yourself, okay, Ricky Starks is getting fucked left, right. They have yet to revisit the MJF feud. They killed his momentum with Jericho. They tried to give him his mid-card placement purgatory hell spot with the Bullet Club Go, but then they fed him a little bit of meat, right? Please, sir, may I have some more porridge? And you know what they gave him in his porridge? They give him a nice dose of get the fuck out of here. You're gonna go and you're gonna job, okay? We need you to look strong to job to the bigger stars. That's essentially what I got out of that. When he eventually did job to Bryan Danielson, and for his consolation prize, he gets a tag team title match with, FTR, I think. No, wait, stop, skibbity, no, revert back. Whoop. We get to a point in time before we get to the whole tag team stuff when Ricky Starks, by the way, in the passage of time going throughout the CM Punk and Bryan Danielson shit, he turned heel again, right? Again, trying to help this guy out somehow, some way, don't know how. He eventually turns heel again, and this is one of the circumstances, this is one of the instances where I kind of think the shoot stuff sort of kind of leaked into the kayfabe stuff, and Edge brings his sorry, scrawny ass over to AEW. He's gonna use his name power, his prowess as a Canadian hero in professional wrestling to lend to AEW in order to replace the name of CM Punk as a prominent superstar on Collision. By the way, how's that working out for you, Edge, right about now? By the way, how's that working out for you right now, Tony Khan? Regardless, though, like I said, this is where I feel like the first inkling of Ricky Starks not giving a fuck anymore started to pretty much become super obvious. He has a little bit of a spat with Edge, right? Mind you, this whole, situation had a bit of a WWE twist to it as far as promos are considered. So it all started off with, I believe, I don't even know who the fuck came out, nor do I give a shit. It was like Christian arguing with Bryan Danielson about getting a shot for the World Championship, and then Edge came out, and then Edge was saying that he wanted his shot, and then, Ricky Starks came out, and he was like, hey, I am the guy, yada, yada, yada. And then Edge was calling him stupid. And then Ricky said some shit back to him. And then Edge just went totally nuclear. I'm pretty sure he went off script. No one can tell me nothing differently. He went off script and he absolutely buried the shit out of Ricky Starks. It wasn't just the fact that, hey, you say something that ruins the character in regards to kayfabe. He went after him for his immutable characteristics, and he went after him for something I'm pretty sure is close to him as far as something that he does not want people to be reminded of in regards of ripping off The Rock and being very, very, very short. Wrestlers do not point out things like that when it comes to kayfabe because it's an immutable characteristic and it's nothing that you can really help out in regards to yourself. Now, obviously, in some circumstances and in some instances, obviously, immutable characteristics can be used as a shoot, but in most cases, I would presume, especially given the fact that the two guys aren't necessarily in an angle at the moment, that it's safe to say that Edge went off the cuff and he did whatever he wanted to do, and I'm pretty sure Ricky Starks calling him out and making fun of him in a pretty mundane way. It's so mundane that I can't even remember the insult that Ricky Starks. I can't even remember what he said to Edge outright, to be honest with you. But Edge totally buried Ricky Starks, and at this point in time, you can see that Ricky was pretty much, he was done. He was done. I'm pretty sure CM Punk is a good friend of his. He's out of the company. He was one of the key people to help Ricky Starks out. Doesn't help matters that CM Punk left and Ricky Starks is putting him over on social media. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is a good friend of his. He's no longer in the company. He constantly puts him over. He's caught at Royal Rumble events and shit like that, helping to support Cody Rhodes, not really helping him out in the grand scheme of things being seen at a WWE event. He's out there supporting Jade Cargill, another good friend of his. He's being seen eating out at dinner and stuff like that. Yeah, he seems more like a WWE superstar who's contracted to AEW, and one may argue that that's probably the reason for his downfall. But nevertheless, though, before I skippity myself earlier, we were talking about Ricky Starks going for the tag team gold with Big Cass, while Bill Hiccup himself calling Cassidy, whatever the fuck you want to call him, former Enzo Amore bitch boy, whatever, it doesn't matter, who cares? He eventually teams up with him, and he goes after the tag team championship belts. He ends up beating FTR in like 5 seconds, or whatever the fucking case may be, and they have a strong title reign, right? No, because I can't remember any opponents that they actually went up against. Actually, as a matter of fact, the opponents that I remember them going up against, the most prominent ones, was them dropping the tag team belts to a retiring Sting and Darby Allin, who, by the way, went on to retire the tag team championship belts themselves. So essentially, they dropped the belts to the guys who, vacated the belts. Because why slap you in the face with my hand when I can do it with my dick? Am I right? And that was the last time I can personally remember seeing Ricky Starks. Again, you guys might have seen him somewhere lurking in the audience, peeking his head like a fucking goblin. Ooh, I'll get you, my pretty. But me personally, I don't remember seeing the guy anymore, okay? I've seen more tribute videos to him that the guy fucking passed away or something on AEW Twitter accounts than I've actually seen on television in himself. And as you guys know, the rumors are circulating around the wrestling mill that he's getting ready to be prepped up to go to WWE. He's about to go to the CW network. He's about to get that hug from HBK himself. He's about to go up against Ethan Page for the NXT Championship. He's about to make a downfall video out of Trick Williams for me as he's constantly going further and further and further down himself. And, like I said, one may argue that this is a downfall series as far as the video is concerned right now at this very moment as of the date of September 3rd, I'm not mistaken. Yes, sirree, Bob. But in a couple of years, we might revisit this video again, but in a different context, where Ricky Starks is a huge star because he ended up leaving AEW for a brand. Because remember, NXT, as they say right now, is no longer going to be a developmental system. It's going to be a brand, right? We'll see how that works out going forward, in the future. Don't think that's going to last too long, but we'll see how that goes. Like I said, might be a downfall video as of right now, but who knows? Maybe he might make it to the promised land, and maybe in that promised land, his promises will actually land. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you feel about the video? Devontae, you make too many fucking jokes. No, the joke is the mirror that you have to look at every day, and you have to be sad and cry tears of joy, because that's the only way you can cope with your sorry sack of a shit of life you call a life. No, I'm sorry. No, look. I made a bunch of disparaging things. I made a bunch of disparaging remarks, but I don't give a shit about your opinion as far as what is considered disparaging. So you can sit there and you can soak with your finger inside your asshole and your thumb in your mouth, and I'll sit back and I'll make money off of your tears if I was monetized. As always, my name is Devontae, and leave your shitty comments down below. I gotta go do other things like not be here. A deuces and a P. Eyes.